Hi everybody, welcome to the Courtney Show. Today is going to be the first day of our book week. The book we'll be talking about today is going to be Beggars in Spain by the wonderful Nancy Kress. It has won the Hugo and Nebula Awards. Now the book is about genetic modification. It happened in the not too distant future. There's a class of the sleepers, which are people that are like normal everyday people. They go to sleep at night. They require sleep to be functional. And then we also have the sleepless, which are genetically modified to be ultra smart, very good looking usually, and they don't require sleep at all. So these people literally don't sleep ever in life from birth, and they even are able to live an extra long time because of tissue rejuvenation. And then going off from the sleepers, they also made a super sleeper, which they just call the supers, and these are sleepless that are even smarter than the regular sleepless, so they're just pretty much a superhuman. And some of the controversies with this book is whether or not the issues in the novel parallel with real-life historical events. So the events we're going to be looking at today are going to be terrorism, genocide, separatism, and civil rights infringements. Nancy Kress is going to be talking about that, and then we also have a professor from Fullerton College, Dr. Mosquito, who is an expert in Jewish studies.
When it comes to the book Genocide and how I was able to illustrate in the book how history repeats itself is through Mr. Hawk, which is the leader who rallied up all the sleepers to not just get rid of the sleepless, but also using terrorism, even murder in some cases that he instigated. Later on in the communities, it shows how the sleepless build their own community and called it Sanctuary, which Jennifer Sharif, which is one of the people in the story, goes and develops a modified version of the sleepless, calls them the super sleepless, and any other child that is born within Sanctuary that is a sleeper because something went wrong with the genetic modification, she orders to have them killed.
I have a question for you, Nancy. So with the Sanctuary, is it kind of like, can you elaborate more on what Sanctuary is for people who haven't yet to read the book?
Sanctuary is a separate community exclusively designed for the sleepless. It's kind of a tongue twister to say that. For the sleepless to feel safe and away from the other sleepless after all the riots and all the murders that occurred and all the hatred acts towards them. They just felt that it would be safer for them to live among their own kind.
Okay, so is there only one sanctuary? Is there different sanctuaries throughout?
When it comes to the sleepers and the sleepless, we only have two sanctuaries. Towards the end of the book, the supers make an attempt to get away from the sleepless and build their own sanctuary. But you'd have to read the next book for that.
Okay, sounds great. Dr. Mosquito, can you give us some examples of real-life historical events that parallel with this?
Yes, well, thank you for having me on your show, Courtney.
You're welcome.
All right, so the first Holocaust was on 1096, happened due to the Jewish community controlling most of the wealth. The Germanic Christians committed genocide in trying to rid the world.
Of the Jews.
Of the Jews, correct. This happened once again in 1941, the Germans to the Jews. This act of genocide forced the Jews to create the separated communities within society in order to protect themselves.
Okay, so pretty much the parallel we're getting is there is a group of people who have a lot of power or a lot of good qualities, and other groups are feeling threatened by them. So they're trying to pretty much just bring them down.
Right.
Okay. So what's the next parallel we have?
The next parallel we have is separatism and how it took place with the sleepless building their own communities. And again, the super sleepless attempt to build their own community. And all these different communities that were built to get away from each other, you know, because there was a lot of hatred, a lot of competition. A lot of the civil rights were being violated with the sleepers against the sleepless, the first generation, by not allowing them to go into the same schools. People felt threatened by them. Their attitude was, you're going to ace this test without even really trying, and here I am a normal sleeper that's going to have to work twice as hard. So they limited their ability to go to the same schools for their own selfish reasons. And in the book, also, the super sleepless were segregated from the sleepless, which were the normal sleepless, because they were not able to teach them at the same level as the normal sleepless, because they were a lot more advanced. And so that's another reason why Jennifer also made sure, which is the leader of the sleepless community, that she not only supervised but limited what they were able to learn and what they were exposed to.
Okay, so it was a lot of she just really wanted to be in control of everything. Okay. Do you have any civil rights issues that in real life that we can parallel back to the book?
Yes, for instance, how in my experience as an expert in this type of history and field of historical facts, terrorism has always been a predecessor to always been predecessors to genocide, which always results in some sort of spiritual community out to fear and in the hope of protection.
Okay.
To protect themselves, to do that.
Okay, so like what you're trying to say is the sanctuary is kind of like a defense mechanism.
Correct.
For the people that are being ridiculed against and just a lot of hatred
and stuff
Okay.
between them. Yes, correct.
Okay, so would you say that any other groups like the blacks and civil rights movements or women, would that be could we parallel that back to the book?
Yes, it is. Like for instance, how it was between the black people and the white people. Same thing with the Jews and the Christians in the Holocaust. So
I think that when it comes to women and how it's parallel to our history, I think that we still have a long ways to go. We recently were able to vote. We have been able to go into the workforce. All these changes that are occurring in our history today, someday maybe will be a female president. You never know.
Exactly.
Was there any type of sexism in the book?
I don't think that there was any particular, no.
Was there any racism in the book, or was it particularly just between sleepless and sleepers?
Well, I think it was between sleepers and sleepless, and then the super sleepless against
Okay.
the sleepless.
So it was more of whether or not you required sleep and your mental ability rather than your sex or your race or your religion.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is racism against each other. You can say that.
Mm-hmm.
How the sleepers hate the sleepless and the sleepless hate the sleepers.
Now, was it all that only it was sleepless against sleepers, or were there some sleepless that liked the sleepers and some sleepers that liked the sleepless, or was it all, cut and dry hatred?
It was not cut and dry hatred. I think that Mr. Hawk did a good job, though, in not just persuading someone's opinion about the sleepless, but instigated a lot of hate because he wanted everybody to join the bandwagon.
Okay, so we saw a lot of that with the Germans and the Nazis.
Yes.
They would try to get other people on board with their hatred of the Jews.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then like how we had before, there's abolitionists who tried to fight for rights for blacks, and tried not to get all whites or whoever to hate against the blacks. So we can say that this book does have very good parallels with historical events.
I agree.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Nancy, for writing such a great book, and I encourage everyone to read this book. It's a wonderful book. I couldn't put it down. So thank you very much, and thank you very
No
much,
problem.
Dr. Mosquito.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.